All right, we are live. Hello, and welcome to the Healing Home. I am your host, Michelle, and today I am super excited to be joined by James of Grounded Extracts. So, James and his wife, Najla, create really awesome medicines. They're creating tinctures and powdered herbs and capsulized herbs and full spectrum remedies to help people heal in all sorts of ways. And I cannot wait to have this conversation with James. And I am super excited for him to be here. And I got to be introduced to James's work through Ben Balderson on Odin's Alchemy. Shout out to Ben. I think it was earlier in 2022 when I first heard him speaking, and I was just totally entranced by what he's doing and his story and everything else. And him and I got to hash some stuff out on Vibrant as well with Chance. And that was back in September. And ever since, I've been wanting to talk to him more. And so now we are going to do that. And I would like to welcome James to the show. Welcome, James.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I get a little overwhelmed when I do stuff like this because I'm not. There's like an energy that like literally comes in the room or some shit. It's weird. It's like, oh, it's probably just the connection, but I'm picking up on it. Like I pick up on the. Dude, this is a horrible start. This.
No, you're good, man. You're
I'm a
so
little
good.
late. But thank you so much. That I really appreciate it, and I love talking to you. And we had I had a great time with Ben, and yeah, that was a good chat with Chance and everything. I love you guys. I think you're doing great.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, same to you. And that's why I'm having you on. You're my first guest.
I know Najla and I were talking about that. I'm so honored. I really am.
Oh, right on. I'm honored to have you, really, because I too pick up on energies, and I picked up on your energy the first interview I saw, and I'm like, dude, this guy is doing it, and he's doing it right, and he's doing it for the right reasons, and you are among some of the people that I want to talk to, because when you're dealing with helping other people heal, it's super important work, and not everybody is fit to do it. Not everybody is even fit to heal their ailments in this lifetime, and that is, I think, one of the things I've realized by trying to help others and myself is like, all right, not everybody's ready for this stuff. And so if you find yourself ready, people like yourself are really valuable to have around, because you're going to be able to open so many doors for other people. And while you're opening doors for those people, you open them for yourself. And it's the cyclical thing. And that's one of the things I want to talk to you about today.
That was
So,
beautiful.
oh yeah. But hey, if you could just please tell us about yourself and Grounded Extracts and how you guys got started and where you can find you online.
Yeah, sure. So groundedextracts.com. That's our website. On YouTube, we have a couple videos up. We're working on a bunch of stuff. So subscribe to the Grounded Extracts YouTube channel. And you subscribed, Michelle. Thank you. I saw your little notification. I was like, that's right. Yeah. So I'm just a normal regular dude, like all the other regular dudes. And I, like all the other regular dudes, got addicted to drugs, right? And so a lot of people might turn it off at that point because it's like, oh, okay, we're going to listen to this guy talk about how hard his life was on, because he chose to do drugs. I get all that. I don't like listening to that shit either. And my life was very just like, I like to describe it like a raw, open wound. It's like it can get filled up with so much like dirt and nasty shit, but like scar tissue is a thing, So I think that's, strengthening. I think that we go through, it can go down the moral relativism path real quick when I start assigning, well, it was good that this happened to me, because then I wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm leaving good and bad out of it, I guess, which is even more moral relativist. But it more just was a like rough upbringing, and everyone can say that about their own lives, like, oh, So we end up making different choices in how to deal with it. And, some people can just start lying about everything and become very bitter because, they didn't get a fair shake in their youth and, fuck the world, basically. Let's watch it burn. That's what direction it can go into. And then you don't want to take yourself out of the equation. So you don't start doing drugs. You more are just because you're not trying to destroy yourself. So people like me, though, when you get to a point with trauma or a bad upbringing or whatever, it gets to the point where you don't care about yourself and then you start doing like crazy drugs. I think it's just good to lay this down because people want to even know, like, okay, we're listening to solutions for drug addicts. You don't know how they got there. Even myself, when I hear someone's doing XYZ, the first thing is like, why, or just stop, but most of these people don't care about themselves. And I would say they don't care about themselves because no one else cares about them, or that's what they feel like anyways. And it's not being presented to them in a believable way. I think it takes one person to have faith and belief in a child and can flip their whole world upside down from being depressed to having hope. And so anyway, so I'm trying to do that. And a lot of the ways the medical industry does it now is, when they come in to hand you the solution, it's just another drug, another pill, whether it's methadone, Suboxone, Sublocade. They're coming out with all new sorts of shit now. And it's just that's their solution to the problem they created, and it's an even more attractive option because the streets are flooded with fentanyl. So, and everyone knows that, and everyone knows if you buy dope, you're probably still getting fentanyl anyways. So they're kind of shoving people into the Suboxone methadone pool. So I was one of those people, and I got put on Suboxone for years, and a ton of other drugs too. And it started destroying me. It started ripping me apart. Like I would not be able to open my hands for like a couple hours every single morning when I woke up. I just the insane acidic state my body was in. And so I was smoking a ton of cannabis because, and now I can look back and know, oh, it's because I was trying to balance my body. My body needed alkaline, right? Because the Suboxone and everything was making it very acidic. So I was learning all these little tidbits as I go about, the body and these drugs and things like that. And I was doing it all, quietly because you get looked at like you're dirty if you have an interest in the idea that there are things put here to affect us in a certain way. Which is everything, but that label drugs, fucks it all up. But so I was very obsessive about like whatever I was interested in. And so when it came to drugs, same situation, I needed to know every aspect of it. And then I would research, and you quickly learn that the people making the drugs don't understand every aspect to it. They tell you they don't know the mechanisms of action. They can't show you this under a microscope. You start learning that everyone's just, in a way, flying by the seat of their pants and don't know shit. No one's invented anything. We're all just kind of like figuring out what's already here. So with the drugs and everything, Suboxone and things like it, anything with buprenorphine, with or without naloxone, doesn't matter. Those things are long-acting opioids. So a short-acting opioid, heroin, would be like 6 to 24 hours. That's with the half-life would be the 24 hours. So Suboxone would be like, last 48 hours, and they're saying like a 36-hour half-life. And then that builds up if you're taking it every day. So it's just this impossible situation that you get yourself in. And I knew, but there's always a way out. Like there has to be an escape route. So I was in that problem, and I was praying for wisdom. And so that's what I did for years. I just prayed for wisdom, and I just kept it at that. Like and just slowly but surely, I just started, things started being put in front of me, and I chose to look at them and look at them deeper. And I needed, that escape route. So iboga was something that I found, and that I had heard about when I was really young.
Okay.
My father told me all about it, because I have family history of, drug addicts and things like that. So he wanted to detox his uncle, and my uncle, I'm sorry. He wanted to detox his brother, my uncle. And I remember being like 8 or 9 years old, sitting at a diner with him, and him telling me if he could just get 10 grand, we could bring my uncle down to Mexico or whatever. And my dad just described it as, they flush your blood out, and it takes just a couple days, and then you don't have to then go on to physical withdrawals for over a year, mental withdrawals of severe depression for over a year. And that's just like the worst of it. Then your body has to rebuild and, rebound back. So it takes a very long time. Sorry, this is a very drawn out.
No, don't be sorry, because you're actually, I mean, I have questions like this. Like was going to ask you, was there a person or an event that got you to the realization of like, whoa, I'm an addict and I have a problem and I need to work on this? Or was it more of just like you were saying, you were like praying for wisdom, and it sounds like maybe your dad was kind of more of a catalyst when he didn't even really know, maybe, it was almost like this, what's the word, like foreshadowing or something. Like he introduced you to this drug that was actually ultimately going to be the thing that like unlocked you from this addiction, which is really beautiful, actually. So yeah, I'm loving where this is going, actually.
Awesome. And I might have an answer. So I was maybe like 3 or 4 years old, sitting at a dinner table with my parents and my brother and my sister. And this used to happen all the time too. My dad would point out, he would do this to a lot of people, but for me, he'd point out people's eyes, whether their pupil was too big, too small, whatever. And this dude is on Vicodin all day, every day. So this dude, you put a flashlight up to his eye, his pupil don't even adjust to light. It doesn't even, and he's the one picking everyone else's eyes apart. But that's besides the point. He used to point at me and be like, dude, this one. And I remember my mom and my dad saying to me, we're going to have to send you to the Betty Ford clinic, huh? And they would say that because my pupils were always like massive. And I actually got arrested one time in my youth because that's how it started. That's how it's like suspicion because his pupils are too big. But
right.
I mean, I'll tell you straight up. Now I'll tell you whether I was on or off something, but I wasn't on anything when I was a toddler. And I was really obsessed with whatever I was interested in. So Batman, the animated series, I got into wrestling. I really liked Europe and like old English, Scottish books, whatever. I got obsessed with things. So that with my pupils, they would constantly joke about, be like, oh yeah. Next week we got to bring James to the Betty Ford. So, and then as I was getting older, I started asking what Betty Ford, what the Betty Ford clinic is, and they started, oh, we were just joking. I'm like, yeah, but what is it? And then, so they would just go throughout the whole thing or whatever. So I learned about the concept of addiction, but I didn't, I honestly, I went through like drug withdrawals a bunch before I ever even knew about physical drug withdrawals, and I think that almost made it, I don't know. I was going to say better, but now I'm thinking worse, because then you would just keep going. The withdrawals are the signal that's supposed to let you know to stop, so you should know that shit's from that. Yep. That was that moment.
Interesting. All right, Cool, because I know, like, if you talk to other people who have had addictions to anything, even if it's not hard drugs, like something like alcohol or something, there's usually this moment where you hit the rock bottom, what everyone calls it, and it looks different for everybody. But there's usually this moment where it's like you get this epiphany or something happens and you're like, all right, I got to change this shit. So, yeah,
Rock
that's
bottom would be my dad dying right before I went to jail, and I was sitting in jail. And my dad's dead. My mom left us when we were young. I'm in a different state, and I had no one, like no one. So that moment would be my quote unquote rock bottom, probably.
right on. Yeah. That's another thing I was going to ask you too is, did you leave home, and at what age did you leave home? And what did you learn from, if you did? Like, some people stay in their hometown forever and that's cool, but some people leave and that's like the thing that just totally opens up their whole world. So did you have an experience like that when you kind of like left your hometown, or were you too young to know what was
Sure.
going on?
I was 20. I moved to Texas. I had a friend who I played. He asked me to play in the church band, where I grew up. And I did, just because I wanted to play music and be a part of that, and so my friend that got me to move to Texas, that's one of the first people that made me think like, oh, I should put energy elsewhere. Like, and not because like people were like looking down on me or whatever. It was the other way. Like people, this guy, when I met him at the church, he would like constantly talk about what a great bass player I was and just kind of like build me up, and that was very foreign to me. So I checked, I was like, I should stay near that dude because he's going somewhere, and he's crushing right now. So I went to rehab, and when I got out of rehab, people, places, things, your body and your mind telling you, why don't you feel the way you're supposed to feel in this area, in this circumstance? And you relapse. So I didn't want to do that, and I knew if I had a different environment, everything would fall into line. So I called my friend, or he called me, and he asked me. I didn't even ask him. He just straight up asked me if I wanted to come to Texas and just live with him for a bit. And I was like, yeah, totally. So I had like $400 cash, and I had a one-way plane ticket. So I went from Connecticut to Dallas, Texas when I was 20, and that was definitely the best thing I had done. Leaving home typically, like, and people in my case or whatever, usually comes like before then sometimes. But I was living with like friends and stuff in the age of like 16 to 20. But my mom was gone. My mom left when I was 14, and she was gone. So shit, I lost my train of thought.
How like you were living basically outside of your home with friends between 16 and 20.
Yeah. So I was kind of, when my mom left, it was already kind of like in shambles and shit. And so, yeah, there's that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were like kind of the classic case of like forced to become independent, at a younger age than a lot of other children are, And so I guess like one of the things too, before we get into the iboga and stuff, because that is where I know we'll end up going, because we're kind of talking about family dynamics and stuff, I want to know how plants have brought you and your family closer together. Because I know you have 3 children, right?
I do.
Okay. So I'd love to know that. Like, how have plants just made your family unit stronger?
Yeah.
And all of that kind of stuff. Because I know that the plants are here to like bring things together, bring us together, bring our emotions together, bring people together. So maybe talk a little bit about that if you have any experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. The plants have been, I mean, I guess we're plants in a sense.
Yeah, we are.
Put here to by the creator to grow, so, but yeah, teaching my 2 boys and my girl about about it is great, because they react very well to literally everything we've shown them in terms of anything natural, plants, anything like that. We have tons of growth around the house, and now they will come up to them and say, hi, I love you, and just keep it moving. They just know now that you give love to the plants, you take care of them. At first they were ripping the leaves off my kratom trees and things like that, but they're getting it.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's the sweetest. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and they always want to smell every herb too. They always go, smell. They always want me to open the mason jars so they can smell whatever, it's red clover, whatever I'm dealing with. So that's pretty cool. It's becoming a great part of our homeschooling. Just, it's like you said, it ties things together, and how we care for the plants is how we should be caring for our plants, for each other. So it's a good teacher tool.
Totally. And like you're already repairing some of this like ancestral, strife, just by doing that, just by walking this path that you're walking and just literally opening herb jars for your children. You're like healing some, some of the strife that may have been there, that you're like already showing them, just like your dad showed you these solutions that you weren't even sure were going to like come into your life at some point. You're doing that for them in your own way. And it's like a more, not even more gentle. It's just freaking cool. It's like a different way of doing it, which is really awesome. And I really love hearing all that stuff. I just love seeing children, especially when you're starting to teach them about nature and plants and how it works, and just how drawn they are to so many things. I mean, they're like the most like, curious creatures around. And it's just really fun to watch them like just really just like light up when they're just like by a plant. And I feel like they can pick up on things that a lot of other people cancel out or just tune out, So very cool.
Yeah. Other people put up the layers, the onion layers that we're all putting on. I'm trying to, exactly what you just said. I'm trying to keep those layers off. I want to do this stage, their foundation in life. I don't want it to be filtered. I don't want it to be injected. I don't want it to be I don't want it to be filled with the trash, because then, as we all know, we grow up and then we're kind of confused about what is trash, what is food, it's all the same shit. And right. That's not true. It's not true.
Yeah, I know. It's like seeing things in hindsight is just always beautiful and tragic at the same time. But to know that, when we're meant to, like I was saying in the beginning when we were talking, it's like when we're meant to heal, we are, and those who aren't in this lifetime, they won't, but they'll find it some other way. And I think when we have people in our lives that just drop these little nuggets every once in a while, and then you just follow that course. That's like one of the coolest things ever. So to be able to do it for your own children, bravo. That's awesome. So love it.
Cool.
And so as we've talked about before, I'm super intrigued with your relationship with iboga, and I've did some research on it because I've only heard you speak about it and a little bit in other realms or whatever. Mm-hmm. But how did you learn about it? Well, you told me that already, your dad, but yes. Its abilities. When did you let me start over. When did you have your first experience with it?
Sure.
You don't even have to be specific about year or anything, but what was it like?
I'll tell you, it was 2018.
Okay.
And it was like nothing I could ever accurately describe to someone. I do my best, but it's almost like, and this will like scare some people, and that's fine. You're meant to be exactly what you are. But it's like a curtain. You kind of get the curtain pulled back, and you get to see that there's this magic, ethereal something that's like holding everything together, and also has its like stamp of creation on it. Like, and you get to kind of like peek back and kind of like have one foot on the outside and one foot on the inside. And once in a while, you get to like time travel and stuff. So it depends who you are and what you're doing, but it's a very different thing for everyone. So I just want to preface that, because I've never heard anyone have an experience like I did, and I've never heard anyone have an experience like other people I know. I had very different experiences compared to other people who did the same thing. So I talk about, when you first take it, if you were like me and you're in the midst the peak of opiate withdrawal, the first thing that you should notice is that your withdrawals subside. That you will notice that because that's all you're focused on. So your withdrawals will start subsiding, and it's probably only 10%. 90% of it's gone. And then everything has kind of an electric ring to it. Like every single sound, your ears kind of have on like an electric filter. And so it also sounds like bees. Other people will tell you that. It sounds like before I got the bee effect, I could hear it from very far away, like coming towards me. And It got louder and louder and louder until it got to my head. And then it didn't go away for, I did it for 10 days. So it didn't go away. But
wow. Oh my God. And then to know the healing nature of bees. That's crazy. Wow. What a cool connection. Oh my God.
That blows my mind. It's so cool you brought that up. That's all right there. They have, retreats and stuff where they build like massage things on top of beehives, and because the vibration, like what you just said, that's exactly it,
Yeah, I swear. I mean, we had bees for a little while, and they're gone now. They took off. So they're gone. They were gone. It was a weird situation. I'm not even going to get into all of it, but we have a neighbor, we were sharing them and this and that, and it was just a strange thing.
Okay.
And so anyway, but dude, every time I got stung, I knew that it was like for a reason. And I got stung on top of my head at one point. It was the last time I got stung. And I swear that bee was like bringing me some sort of like opportunity to open my crown chakra, because I had like crazy detox, like flu symptoms, like days after it. And I could tell that like my body was just like purging whatever was going on. And I swear, I think they're like, it's some sort of initiation when you get stung by a bee.
You think?
I think so, because I have like a food thing. My thing's always been food. I got an inner fat child kid inside of me. I love food. I love to cook. I love to eat it. I love to share it. All the things.
I'm just saying. Go ahead. Yeah.
Nice.
I agree. Yeah.
Dude, yes. And so it's like I was in the garden and I was thinking, I'm like, oh man, we should order pizza tonight and that'd be awesome and whatever. And dude, as I'm thinking that thought, I got stung right on my stomach. And the bee went into my overalls. It was in there and it stung me right in the stomach. And it was like, no, you shouldn't eat pizza, dude. No, don't eat pizza.
Oh my
So just
gosh.
Stuff like that happened to me all this last summer. And I was like, wow.
Do you think that that's like a everything's a fractal metaphor too, but like we're a bunch of worker bees from the Ya or the creator. We're a bunch of worker bees doing his thing. And then when he needs to sting someone on the stomach, he sends this one worker bee some iboga, and then he goes and fucking, stings the yeah, dude. It's interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah, no, totally. We are worker bees in our own way. And just getting the little bit of time with them that we did, I'm super grateful for, because I know moving forward, we'll be able to, have another relationship with another hive. Our environment just isn't fit for them. I think it's too wet and cold here where we're at.
Yeah.
But yeah, all these things. I mean, just the bees in general, I have this whole theory about now that I wasn't able to ever come to conclusions with. And I had a huge fear of bees. And my whole thing was like, I'm going to sit by that hive every day and just sit there and don't freak out, and like let the sounds of them just come around you, whatever. And I feel like I was actually able to just like get over my fear of them just by being near them and allowing them to just be. And then you realize actually how gentle they are. But when they have a message for you, they will give it. And they're not going to like stop or apologize for it either. So, and they give their life when they sting you, So it is like all for the queen, man. Okay. I gotta go.
It's so incredible. That's so cool because that's what like the beginning of my ibogaine trip and many others too is some type of visual or like completely immersive experience where you're giving over your life in this realm. Like you're giving over all the shit, the vanity and the materialism and the newest phone or whatever, like all the shit you thought you wanted that's in the in Babylon. That all like dies. You completely just shed all of that. So that's interesting, man. The bee metaphor. I think I'm gonna look more into that because I'm gonna see how many more connections there are.
Yeah, I recommend it. If anyone has like any inkling of just like interest in them, they are just infinitely fascinating. Yeah, super cool.
The pollinators. That's why they're all that's why they look like the way they do. Like yellow jackets are like combat vehicles. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. And
And
so go ahead.
I just one last thought on that.
Yeah.
This is a smart creator or whatever, and you put, I don't know, it just has such an important job to do. Obviously, if you're decked out in a helicopter type like combat thing like that, you have such an important job to do because you need to get it done and be able to do, like, I don't know, it's just awesome. I'm just really excited about the bees now.
Yeah, no, it is. And they're vicious. The yellow jackets, I mean, they will just like gnaw on like meat. They're just like you're outside at a picnic. They're just there, and they're just the attraction they have to certain things is really interesting. And
Coke cans, empty Coke cans.
Yep, totally.
I love this.
Dude, Mario has a story that his dad used to like take. It was either his dad or his uncle. They would go camping and they would take like a strip of bacon and hang it on a tree. And all the yellow jackets would just go to the bacon and then they would not bother anybody else. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a brilliant idea. Cause like they would just, that's what they want. They're after like this meat, this nourishment, this fat, whatever it is that they're after,
And that's the shit they should be teaching you in school. Like, that's brilliant. I feel real stupid. That's really smart.
It is very smart. I know. And I just learned about this a few years ago. I'm like, wow, that's awesome. They should be like talking about this more.
Yeah.
But as we know, like the things that we really should be knowing, they keep that stuff under wraps and we need to find on our own. And I think like that's like one of the treasure troves of it all, though. The things that we find out on our own through our own experiences and hiccups and beautiful moments, it's like it's all more valuable, in the end. So with the iboga, one of the things, so ibogaine is one of the alkaloids in iboga, correct?
Ibogaine would be the separated alkaloids, but yeah, that does refer to a specific set of alkaloids. But there is, yes, one main would be the HCl, and then the total alkaloids surrounding that. So yes, that would be, once it's isolated, then it would be called that ibogaine. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then did you isolate it or was it isolated when you took it?
This was completely isolated for me.
Okay.
All the work was done for me in terms of prepping and things like that.
Okay, interesting. And then one of the other things I read about, and I'm just, this is just my research, so correct me if this is not how it works, but are there like 3 phases of a trip? Is that accurate to say? Like that's kind of like a scientific way they're like breaking it down. There's 3 phases, so whatever you have.
Go on. What do they say?
No. Well, they say that there's a visionary phase, which is like the first, initial part of the trip, which I believe was like up to 8 hours, the first like up to 8 hours. And then the second one was like your evaluation phase, which basically when I was learning this, I'm like, well, that's the coming down phase. So you're kind of like starting to come down, you're starting to look, okay, what was going on? You're internalizing your experience.
Typically, yes, but go on.
Typically. All right, yes.
Drugs, yes.
And this is why I wanted to bring this up to you, because when I was reading it, I'm like, okay, I could see how like this is accurate, but it's a total scientific like way of looking at it, like trying to break it down and be very specific. It's like none of this stuff works like that because life isn't like that. So it's funny when you're reading these like studious papers or whatever, you have to have like eyes to see.
Yeah.
When you have eyes to see, you can watch anything on the TV and see all the crap they're trying to instill in you. And you
Mm.
can do the same thing when you're like reading about this stuff. But then the third phase, it's called the residual stimulation phase, where I read about this that so basically people sometimes report that they have like a lot of energy post the trip and not like feeling like they don't need to sleep as much, like even for like several days after. So, did you experience anything that would go into the realms of these phases? And
Yeah.
what was it like for you?
Yeah, for sure. My again, yeah, it's hard to quantify, especially this particular thing, because it's so different for everyone, and people just have completely opposite results sometimes. Um, so shit, my mind is going a million miles an hour, and sometimes my mouth can't keep up with my mind. Does that happen with you? And then it just keeps going, and you're like,
Yes.
wait, come back.
Yeah, take your time or we can segue too. But yeah.
No, no, it's good. Okay, so pretty quickly, visually, I did start just getting very grateful. That was the first thing. Besides the bees and everything doesn't really look psychedelic, but it looks different. There's definitely a different filter that's been pulled from you. So you're seeing everything in its very raw state and just how it is. It's if anything was called a truth serum, this would be it, in my opinion. So I use all of a sudden all these memories from childhood, things you're not even sure if you ever remembered them, but now you have access to your whole mind. So you're still in the room, you're still seeing everything in the room, but it's like your third eye is active and projecting something that's not in the room, but that's what it feels like. And so you can still interact with people in the room. And then, but like right here, there was like this visual movie theater type screen, just like a regular screen. And if you focused on it, it would never stop. It wouldn't, it doesn't give you a chance to be awkward or to make a bad choice or to react wrong when you're in this stage. It's showing you things that happen to you in your life that are typically the answers for questions you didn't even know you had about yourself. Why do you act this way? Why do you do that? Most people are so closed off to even who they are, what they are, how they come off. It's man, but so you get to see all of that. You get to pretty much, it feels like, in my opinion, the creator is just like flipping through your brain like it's a book, and you're
Wow.
just in fast motion, but you're not getting any of the like, well, you're not getting any of the egoic, me-centered nagging and pulling by whichever way my parasites are hungry. It's not like that. It's just it's its whole thing. So you're all the minutiae is taken away, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And the main point of that interaction and what the cause and effect was in that scenario, that memory that you're reviewing, that's what's going on. You're getting raw data, raw details, just the truth about this situation. This person did that to you. You thought they were just being mean, but really they had this going on and whatever. And it just, and then it gives you a solution paths. It's really opening yourself up to what's already in us. That's also what I want to stress. So as I'm going through these memories and everything, your brain is working, a million miles an hour, but it's saving everything, it's processing everything, it's grabbing it, and you feel like you're completely not in control. Like you're just like you're on a fucking roller coaster, basically, and it's gonna go whichever way the track takes it. And when I started getting visual in terms of not just projecting, a trip or imagery or a memory, but when everything started to blend. So I was sitting on my couch, and I just wanted to do what was right, and that's what it just came back to, you know. And that's the way it made me feel, and a lot of people. And so, you know, I was praying. It was on my first day, and I just didn't want to take Suboxone so badly. And so I'd been going, like you said, 8 hours, maybe, and then like maybe. Time is so undetectable and so unmeasurable when you're on this thing. So I actually have no clue. But at some point during the first day, a hand, like probably up to my sleeve, came down. I don't know though, because when I think back, it's like there was more, but I could only see visually very clearly the hand and the arm come down, and he had a sword, like an old school, you know, sword in his hand, and it just came down, and all this shit just started flashing in my mind about everything I wanted, you know, growing up watching bands play music, watching, you know, actors act, you know, watching all that shit. You know, you grow attachments, but they're superficial, and so it helps sever all those attachments. And you know, some people could say, well, then you lose your identity because that is all me, and blah blah blah. I think this realm is really good at building up, just like our legal fiction name. We have like legal fiction personalities. We have these things that people know us by and what we're for and what they say. But like at the end of the day, you're a soul that came into this realm. No English word, no brand name, no nothing is going to tell you who you really are. And I think every single thing in this realm is meant to get you to forget who you are, you know. And it's like this realm is a forgetful place in itself. But it's just it's a different beast. This realm is forgetful for a good reason. You know.
Yeah, interesting. I think so too. I think just the amount of distraction that is available to everybody, no matter what it looks like for any person, is totally just perpetuating the avoidance of self and the avoidance of just figuring out your own and developing your own emotional intelligence. And I think that, you know, Mario and I talk about this a lot, that like there's always this thing about like mental health. We have to make sure we have to be taking care of all the people's mental health. And it's always like, oh, okay, there's homelessness because there's mental health issues. It's like, well, what if we look at it further than that, and it's more about like emotional health and emotional well-being, and that these things that we end up finding ourselves distracting ourselves with is basically just a way to avoid the negative emotions that may be coming up when something happens. You know, sometimes you can even like look at like procrastination, for example, as like you're procrastinating something, you procrastinate it, and it's literally just an avoidance of the negative emotions that you might feel to do that task.
Mm.
Once I started applying that, Sonia Barrett, if you've never heard of Sonia Barrett, she was the person I got that from.
Okay.
And it was in a time in my life when I was procrastinating. I had emotional blocks that were blocking me from progress in what I was doing. And she said those words, and I was like, oh my God, she's totally right. That's totally what's going on. I'm totally avoiding the negative emotions that might come up if I decide to do that thing. And what is that about? And so I don't know. I just look at addictions and distractions kind of in that realm now.
Beautiful.
And then it's all it's like emotional based. It's like yeah, because I think there's so much emotional immaturity going on. And we're not taught in school how to develop ourselves like that. And so you're lucky if you have people around you that are able to help you nourish your emotions and how to deal with them. And like, why are you feeling that way? Are you mad at that person, or are you actually mad at yourself? You know, these sorts of things.
Processing, just like very simple things. Yeah.
Yes, totally. The simplest stuff goes the furthest, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Big time.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, man. So I guess too, like, what would you suggest if somebody's like, okay, I'm ready to, come clean and start being healthier, and they want to use iboga, how would you recommend they start doing that?
I don't recommend
Okay.
start doing that.
Okay.
I
That's good
would,
to know.
yeah, I don't really recommend anything, but I can tell you what I've done and what other people I know have done, but for the most part, it's so case by case basis. Everything in this realm, as you know, is just, it's so case by case. So it would depend on how much the person weighed, how much, what type of food they're eating. And if I heard this shit while I was still doing dope, I'd be like, dude, whatever, bro. That really, like, you care about that, but the dope isn't the problem. It's like, no, dude, it's full spectrum. It's all the problem. It's all the problem. But if you take one of those smaller problems out that isn't as big as your fentanyl problem, it might make your need for fentanyl less. Do you know what I mean? It might. So I would say pray. Pray. If you think that's a stupid answer, then you're definitely not there yet. Pray.
Yeah.
Know that it works. And you know what? Najla and I were talking about this too. The creator answers prayers, but it's not like Amazon. Everyone's gotten very used to like 2-day shipping. Like, things get there when they're supposed to get there, and unbeknownst to you, just like your birth, right? And if you're not in the right place, this is why you got to be consistent and just keep it up. Don't stop. Hold the line, because when that prayer gets answered, if you're not in the right place, then that shit's returned to sender, or to someone else, or it's, and that's how I view it, so have faith, but be patient too, and no, it's usually a lot, if you're doing it right, it's usually a lot more beautiful of a result than you could ever expect if you're doing the right thing. Again, the spiritual rewards are here just waiting for you if you just start doing the right thing, no matter if it makes you uncomfortable, if it makes you look stupid, if everyone at work in the office laughs at you, if the girl is disgusted with you. Like, you just speak, you got to speak the truth, and you got to say what's right, you got to do what's right, and dude, that's when doors just unlock. Your handcuff just like breaks off. Like, oh, because I was like when I was a drug addict and like teenager, I would go and shoplift, random food items and stuff, because just to go back and eat, and because I'm not going to spend my dope money on food now.
Right.
Right. So, and then one day, I was just in the store, and I just had this epiphany. Like, I was getting really like, oh wow, I'm like a professional at this point. And I'm almost like, am I even good at it? And I'm like, well, I must be, because I've just been able to get away with it. So, and I just reached my hand out and I just stopped in dead tracks, and I said, like, I just realized that was the whole test. I wasn't going to get caught. It's just, but was I going to keep doing it once I recognized it was wrong? And that was the moment. That was definitely one of my big moments of like, oh, there's this realm is special. There's energetic repercussions for the bad or the good that you give out. Like, it's a fucking boomerang.
It totally is. And like going back to the praying thing, one of the things I always think about is like praying for, and one of the things I do, or asking my ancestors or whatever it is, whatever it looks like to you.
Mm.
It's like praying or asking for the ability to have the strength to do the thing you want to do. It's like you can wish all day for $1 million is going to show up on your door and whatever. And it's like, well, it doesn't necessarily, you're not just going to get a package of money, but the more and more you're putting these things out, the more and more you're going to gain the abilities to be able to get to the point where you might want to be. Not even saying it's $1 million or whatever it would be. You just want to like, hone a skill more. You can ask for these things to come to you. And I feel like just by doing that, you're putting yourself in an abundant mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of people in the society are actually in, and not even knowing that they're in a scarcity mindset. I lived in a scarcity mindset for many years. It was brought up in a scarcity mindset. There was never enough. Oh my God, there's not going to be enough, whatever it is. Yeah. And it took me a long time. That was one of my biggest shadows to work through. And then one of the biggest hits to realize that, oh my God, I was like totally in the scarcity mindset, negative mindset. And that was actually holding me back from all these things.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot. I mean, people talk about it, but I feel like it's like a bigger deal. I think it's like part of the program of being here. If you haven't broken the programs that are given to us and instilled in us from young ages, you don't see that it's all based in scarcity. And that you should be dependent and depending on everything else to bring whatever you need, whether it be your government, your school, the state official, the people who clean the roads. It's like always somebody else's problem until it's your problem. But then you're not able to see that it's actually your part of the problem because you're just always like in this weird negative headspace of scarcity.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you run to the first place they tell you to run if you do have these spiritual questions and concerns, or and you do have a little bit of faith, and you'll find yourself in a church, and then you'll find yourself listening to someone saying, well, we're running out, he's coming back, fuck everything because we're pieces of shit, and it's going to be any day now, any second now, there's only 1 minute left, or don't even try, don't even put any effort in because there's no time left. Like that's what I was raised in. I'm sorry, I get a little excited about shit like that.
No, you're good. Yeah. It's worth getting excited about.
It really is. Yeah. And it's like that's the exact opposite of faith, right? Scarcity.
Yep.
It's the
totally
exact opposite. So,
yes.
And it's like, okay, and in line with the prayer thing, prayers get answered, right? So if scarcity mindset, what is that going to give you? It's going to give you nothing. It's going to leave you, if you have the victory mindset, the faith mindset, it's just given to you. Once you know the power of that, once you know the power of the creator, I mean, I'm at the point though where I'm just like, how am I walking around and like, how does my body stick? Like, I'm just at the point where I'm just so blown away that we even exist. And I'm not saying that's the mindset to have, but man, I think it helps just get like, if you can find yourself just like so blown away that you could have the thought that you're blown away, like just that you exist. That's where I'm at now. I can't believe what's happening.
Yeah, no, I know it. And it just gets wackier and wackier. And, one of the things that I just came to the conclusion of after, looking into crazy stuff, conspiracies, truther stuff, all these things over the past, like almost, God, it's crazy, almost decade now. And I remember in the very beginning of it, just having this passion to like tell everybody and wake people up. And like, no, you have to know that this is happening because it's messed up and whatever. And like, I was working at a coffee shop and I would like drop stuff on customers and they were like, they didn't know what to do. And then I was realizing, I'm like, they're not reading the books you're reading. They're not hanging out with the people you're hanging out with. So if you throw that at some normie and they're just getting their coffee, they're like, what? And like, it was like the beginning of me realizing that this is it's not even in a selfish way. It's like this information you're picking up on it is for you so that you can then transcend and continue to grow and stuff like that. So you can ultimately make this place better or help somebody or whatever. But if you're trying to like it's like when to jump off a sinking ship, almost sort of feeling sometimes. Like it's like
Yeah.
I can't wait around for you to
Right.
want to open your mind.
Right.
And I think it's a trap that a lot of people who start to learn about alternative information fall into. And I've even
I think
had
it
to,
weeds people out. I think it weeds
yes,
people out. If you don't pass that trap, like, okay, because you're gonna get called crazy, just looked at, crazy, and then you're gonna have more resentment. It's just like it's in you, man. You gotta not give a shit about what other people think. And like you said, like wrap your mind around that fact you haven't been hanging out with the same people, seeing the same things, having the same epiphanies, you have different astrology. I mean, it's just like, and that makes it takes the burden off though, doesn't it? Like I feel like it
yes,
when you realize that shit, and it's so cool because every time you realize something huge in this reality, that's what happens. You're like, oh shit, there are more whatever left. It's just
yeah,
man.
I know. It's a beautiful thing. It's a torturous and beautiful, like all at the same time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And the scarcity. I talked about this with Ben Balderson when we on that stream we did together like a year ago on his channel about I had a dream when I was young, a reoccurring nightmare where I would have this, and it wasn't visual. It was strictly emotional, strictly feeling. But if I was going to give it a visual metaphor, it would be like I'm on a swing and I go one way and this overwhelming, accelerating fear of too much, too much, too much, too much. Whatever it is, too much. I'm gonna fuck like my entire being is gonna explode and cease to exist, like type feeling. And it's right when I'm about to just not exist anymore, the swing goes back down the other way. And then when it reaches the middle is the only for that split second, I'm like, okay. And then that accelerating feeling again, but the feeling on the other side of the swing is not enough. So the first time is too much, too much, too much, too much. And then the second time, on the other side of the swing, it's not enough. And it's so not enough that it felt so empty and draining that I would also cease to exist because I was going to have nothing left in me. Like that was the dream. And I started having this dream when I was about 3 years old, and I had it reoccurring for years. And it was by far to this day the worst nightmares I've ever had, and not visual. This was all just feeling. So the scarcity faith thing, I think you're onto something. Like the gravy, the information that is in that, like the tool of that and the use of it and what we're supposed to learn from that.
Dude, totally. Yes. That just reminds me, like, I'm just seeing like a pendulum in my mind.
Yeah.
And it's like in that center point, like you were in divine balance. Like there was a divine balance of the two, because it's like you can't, life isn't all love and light either. You have to be practical. You have to have the thoughts of like having foresight of like, well, I do have like bills to pay because I live here and I'm choosing to work with this money system. So if you choose to work with this, then there are things that come along with it. And there's like responsibility. So there is like there's the moments of like, oh crap, like, do we have enough money to buy groceries, or what's going to happen? Like these things happen, but it's like, I just feel like it's all about kind of coming back to that emotional intelligence, that the ability to be able to control it and not allow it to spiral to the point where you spiral out into like the dense scarcity that you just continue then to get the scarcity. So yeah, that's beautiful. The divine balance that you felt in that dream. That's cool.
It was for a split second every time it went there. It was like not nearly enough time in the middle, but
Yeah. That's cool.
I guess that's what we're trying to attain,
I think so. Yes, I totally think so. So we are coming up to an hour.
Yes.
So I was thinking, do you feel like you want to have a little intermission, like a little 5-minute break?
Sure.
How do you
I'm
feel?
just gonna get some water and maybe pour my coffee. Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. Because I'm gonna go into the chat and see if there's any questions or whatever,
Cool.
and we can come back and carry on.
All right, cool.
All right, cool. Yeah. All right. What's up, everybody? Little 5-minute break here. Give our guests a little time to breathe. So, how's everybody doing? If you guys have any questions for James, I'm going to go through the chat. Hello to everybody. What's up, Andrea? Glad to see you here. We got some family fungi in the house. Awesome. Howdy, howdy. Just going to throw up some people. Just say hello. We got Sunseed. What's up, Rachel? So if anybody, I'm going to come through. Hey, Ian. How's it going? Glad to have everybody here. This is so fun. This is my first interview, so I'm really excited to have everybody here. What's up, Cody? Seeing some new faces in here too. So yes, Jenny B, Davin, Mel. All right. So if anybody has questions, feel free to shoot them up here. I have more questions for James, so if you guys don't, that's totally fine. And we will just, just carry on as I had planned. But yeah, I am totally enjoying this conversation, and I'm loving where we're going with all this stuff. And share with me if you guys have anything that you want to be brought up here. Oh, Nicholas, you've got your oh, cool. Your Artemisia seeds are on their way. That's great. Oh man. Yeah, I'm excited for you to be able to plant those and grow your own because it is such a lovely plant. And once you plant it and you have your starts and everything, it will just grow and grow and grow, and you'll be able to share cuttings with friends and make your own medicine and all that kind of stuff. So very, very cool. All right. Let's see. Does James have any experience with beta carbolines like harmaline and harmine? All right. I will write that down for him. All right. Beta. And I'm grateful to see you guys in here and talking. I did not want to look at the chat while I was talking with James because it was going to be way too distracting for me, especially while I'm still like learning all this stuff. So thank you for just being here and hanging out and all that kind of stuff. All right, Davin. Do you have a favorite plant or medium for somebody to do their first extract? Oh, that's a great one. All right. All right. There must be a way where I could like screenshot these questions, and like not write them down old school, but it's okay. So I'm just going to say favorite plant for a first timer. To extract. That's a great question. Thank you, Devin. All right. How long was he on Subutex before he took the iboga? All right. Thank you for all your questions, guys. Okay. And I think that I'm going to make this kind of a regular thing when I have guests. Kind of come in, take a little break and come in and see if people have anything that they want to ask the guest. Okay. Oh, can you copy and paste into an email or like? I don't know. All right. Cool. Chamomile is a good one. It's so gentle and you can do so many things with it too, depending on what kind of extraction you want to do too. If you're wanting to, be complex with it and do spagyric extraction, or if you're wanting to just kind of do like folk medicine where you're just, basically macerating an herb in a solvent, which could be alcohol, apple cider vinegar, DMSO, water to make tea. These are all extractions that can be made very simply. Yeah, and echinacea is easy as well, the root of it. Which roots? We're going to be getting into roots too. I have some questions for him about roots and his opinion on root medicine because it's very, very potent medicine usually. All right. And so I think we are back here. All right, James, are you ready?
Yeah.
You feel ready? Okay. I think I'm good. I think I'll be able to just keep going.
Cool. Okay.
So I do appreciate your
Yeah.
offer
Yeah.
to do that.
Yes.
Now, how do I? Okay, I just hid the chat. Okay, cool. So we did have a couple questions for you from the chat, actually. So if you
Cool.
feel down.
Yeah.
So Family Fungi wants to know, do you have any experience working with beta carboline, like hamaline or harmine? I think I'm saying that correctly.
I'm learning a lot about it. And not I know it's the alkaloids that are found in the Amazon with like the cappy leaves and stuff for the ayahuasca. And I know there's like trace amounts and other things, whatever. But the point of it being like telepathine or whatever is one of the names. Telepathine is one of the species, which is interesting because it has telepathy right in the
Yeah.
and that's that, they claim this alkaloid. Again, I think it all works together as one thing, but it's supposed to add to their ability to communicate with each other. That's the telepathy, basically. I mean, but no, I don't have experience. I have experience working with it a little bit in my own for myself, like back in the day, but I'm still learning about that type of stuff. That's some magical stuff, man. Great question. Family Fungi is crushing.
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm very excited to just be introduced to them just recently. It's been super fun to get to know James and Elise both. Super. I mean, I've just been like blown away too. Like they're in the younger phases of life and how far they are along. Like I just have to say kudos to you guys. I look at your Instagrams, I'm like, wow, to be at your age. Like I think James just had a birthday, he just turned 30, and I was like, wow, bravo, dude. Like keep it up to be that. I mean, I'm not that old either. I'm like in my late 30s, but still, it's just like it's really cool when you see younger people doing things that people in their 40s haven't even yet gotten to do. It's just like it's really cool.
I do feel very blessed and very, just I do feel like, yeah, it's pretty cool to be alive with the mindset we have in this day and age. I wonder if everyone feels like that. I don't think they do, because I talk to a lot of different people all the time, and no one seems to really connect with that, except for people like you and myself and people in the community, So I think this is a very special time.
I do too. And like I know I talked to Ben Balderson about this, but like when 2020 what happened and everything, whatever you want to freaking call it,
Right.
Dude, that was one of, like, as a couple, Mario and I's best years. Like not only as a couple, sweet, but personally, like on a personal level, as a couple, as just we were just like things were moving so fast in really good directions, and we were just feeling good, and we were like, man, everyone around us is like going nuts and going crazy and being whatever, but we were just feeling like, wow, this is like the hugest blessing. It lit so many fires under our butts that it just got us moving in so many positive ways. And so anyway, there were so many blessings. It's just as anything, like some crazy stuff that happens or whatever, there's always blessings and lessons in it, and yeah, they kind of keep coming from that point. So very grateful for that. Another question, Davin, he would like to know what is a good plant or your favorite plant to suggest to a first timer if they wanted to start extracting elements from a plant.
I started with cannabis. That's because I was I just liked it. So you could, but that in my opinion, cannabis is a great one to start with. Whether it's, you're doing CBD or THC, if you want to learn how to extract things, that's a very smooth one. I would say start with coconut oil. Don't do vegetable oil or anything like that. I would go to the liquid MCT, and I would, let me think, I'm not to do ratios in my head. Hold on. Let me get a mason jar and I can tell you.
Cool.
Okay. So come here, Mason. All right. So if I was going to do this, and it could be a smaller jar too, but so can you see the lines on that?
I can see it. Yeah. So he's got a 32-ounce quart mason
Yeah.
jar in his hand.
Oh, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would say for something like cannabis, I would first, you're going to have to grind it down. People say to grind it sometimes after you decarb it. I prefer to get like a NutriBullet, get it that fine, put it in a NutriBullet dry, and just get it down, to the finest powder you can, and then have it in the mason jar on its side, everything laid out as flat as it possibly can. You might want to shake it every half an hour, or just the one at the first half an hour break. Now, the cannabis you're going to have in here, no liquid, and you're going to put it in the oven. And the oven should be at 250 degrees. A lot of people will tell you it's like 220 for 40 minutes. No, dude, it's got to be at least to the level where all the cannabinoids can be activated. Different cannabinoids activate at different heat, different pressure. So we're trying to make sure we get all of them. We do it in the mason jar to keep everything in there. So I'd say about an hour for 250 degrees. That's been my absolute best results. If you have different numbers, please let me know, because I'm always trying to do different things. But so 250 degrees for 1 hour after you ground all your cannabis up, put it in the oven. This is going to activate it. So that's the THCA to the THC. Who was I just listening to Ben talk about this? He said something. Okay. Anyways, so I'm getting off track. So you put it in the oven, 250 degrees for an hour. You take it out, and then let it cool down. Let everything cool down. You'll see, like, liquid in the inside or whatever. It'll all disappear. Just wait for it to go back. And it should go from like green to brown, basically, without being actually like torched, like burned. So it's just everything is kind of singed a little bit. And so then I would take this and then put it flat and let everything fall to the bottom. And maybe, again, it depends on the size of the mason jar you're using, how much weight you're going to need in biomass. But if it's ground down, this line would typically be up to here or here if it wasn't ground down. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to do the first line because it is ground down. So fill it all the way up to that line. And then I would say you could fill up the coconut oil. You could do with, like, let me say 2 cups of MCT. I use bigger stuff when I'm doing it. So I don't have, it's been a while since I used this size jar for this type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so up to here with cannabis, at the first line of cannabis, and then the rest would be MCT. And you want a good 1.5 inches, 2 inches, from the top. So it can have room to move around and smash up against the side and smash up against each other and extract all the stuff. So the cannabis is fat soluble. So MCT oil, coconut oil, is a fat, right? So that you can get all of the cannabinoids into the modality, right? You need alcohol. You need something to put what is in the cannabis. You need to take it out and put it in something else. That's essentially what you're doing. You're unlocking the cannabis so you can take out its essence and put it somewhere else. And so I would say then you could cook this. This is why it's good to start with coconut oil and cannabis too, because you don't have heat won't destroy the cannabis. And like, because a lot of heat will destroy a lot of extracts and tinctures. So a lot of them you just have to wait 6 weeks, and you got to do the work every day. But if you want to see the magic of extraction in one day, in a few hours, that's what you would do. And then once this is filled up with MCT oil, the coconut oil, you then shake it a bunch, so the whole thing just turns into like a green juicing type situation is what it looks like. It's just green sludge, and you're just shaking it up. And then you're going to want a pot that's at least not this type of pot, but that was my cannabis joke.
Nice.
So you want a pot that's like at least this tall, probably a little higher. And you want to put this in the pot, and you want to have it on medium high heat. Not enough to bubble, but like right before the bubble stage. And you're going to fill the water in the pot all the way up to right above where the cannabis and coconut oil stops. So if it's filled up to here, you want the water like there, just because it'll start evaporating, and you don't want it to get too low, and you want heat, a consistent heat, to be touching all of this at the same time. So then you're going to shake it every half an hour to an hour vigorously. And you're going to cook that, I would say, maybe 3 to 4 hours. You shouldn't need to do any more than that. That'll get every last thing out of it. Now, you're going to be shaking it every half an hour to an hour. So it's hot. Make sure you use your gloves, whatever you use to do this type of work. Now, when you're done, you're going to take it out, again, with gloves, and set it in a dark place, cool, dark place, but room temperature works. It just needs to be brought back to a handleable, temperature before you can actually start extracting. Well, the extract is done, but now we're going to be extracting the liquid from the jar. So we put that away until it cooled, and then open it. And I like to let everything settle. So for certain things, I use filters, but for things like this, if I can extract the top layer of just clear liquid, because everything has fallen to the ground, I can see there's literally not even the smallest molecule in it, of plant matter, of biomass, and it's just liquid, then I prefer to stick a syringe in and draw up the liquid and do it, because then you're bypassing so many filtration steps. So get yourself some big syringes, like 120 milliliter syringes, things like that, 60 milliliters even, but bigger if you can. And yeah, that's what I would do. And then separate it, and bam, you got your extract. You do have to do like the numbers ratio right if you want a certain strength, but typically that cannabis is cannabis. Yes, there's different kinds, different strengths, but you're still extracting cannabis, whether the percentage of THC per gram and blah blah blah. It's unnecessary.
Wow, that was beautiful. That was awesome. That was a great great like run through with that. And I'm so glad cannabis was your herb, because you're so right. Like if you're wanting to see this happen in a day, that's like the best. And I'm so glad to hear that you powder the cannabis first, because I've always done that too. And because I would always think, I'm like, you watch people do it, or like they'll just throw a bunch of nugs onto a cookie sheet or whatever. And I would always think, I'm like, well, that the middle of that nug might not be getting decarbed,
And shit on the inside. I know that's we totally.
Yeah. So I was so glad when you said you pre-grind it. I'm like, yes, dude. And then the 250, that's what I've always done as well.
Nice.
And so I like the idea of the syringe, because you're totally right. If you're just gonna like run that through cheesecloth or a fine mesh, whatever the hell it is. I love the idea of that. I've never thought of using a syringe. So that's a great tip. That is wow. Good.
Me and Balderson were we're connecting over that. Like at Flattoberfest, I was like, hey, you know, big syringe. He's like, big syringe. Oh yeah, big syringe. I was like, big syringe. And like someone
Nice.
that doesn't know us would be like, these fucking junkies over here. It's like crazy shit.
They're like 120 mil syringe, guys.
Bro.
All right. No, dude, I love that because I talked to him about mead in that way and
Yeah.
how he talked about like you want to extract like the center of the mead. So obviously you don't want that
Yes.
sediment. You don't want the very top. I can't remember what he said about the top.
Like foam, like the
Some there's like something about it is like he was like it's all ethanol up on top or something like that. He's
okay.
like you just want that center and that's where a
Yeah.
syringe would come in
Let
super handy.
Here, I'll
So
grab one of my 100%.
sweet.
Let me grab one of my. I've got a tincture. No. Can you see the middle?
I can, yes.
I started
Oh,
walking, so it immediately.
yeah, I can see it moving around in there now.
It's the middle.
Wow. That's awesome. Yes.
And this
I
is
hope
a
you guys can see
kratom
that.
extract. So this is just powdered leaf too, and I'm gonna shake it every day. This is a 64-ounce mason jar. This is what I typically try to do my tinctures in because they're heavy and they're hard to shake with tons of liquid and biomass. It's harder to shake, but it makes it more forceful and it makes everything hit against everything that much harder because of the weight of everything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Nice. I saw on your Instagram you're making something into a liquid extract that used to only be a powder for you guys.
Yes. Well, we have a liquid. We have a liquid version of it. We also do the powder and the capsules, but you can't see that one as much. But we never made a pain tincture for kratom, and I wanted to see how the first one went. You know, we're just using, white and green veins on the first one, but we're just doing the alcohol, alkaloids, just trying to keep it about energy and focus and motivation and kind of not do the pain side. I might have been holding myself back because, there's a million people that are so awesome and so cool, but then there's that one or two people that are like, you're selling liquid kratom so junkies can go home and shoot it up and blah blah blah, like all this crazy shit. So I might have backed off it because one or two loud people, and then over the past few months, so many people have been asking me about it, like good, hardworking people that have chronic pain, have been asking me about it. So because of one bot online, I'm not gonna not make healing things out of nature for people. I mean, it comes down to that. So now we're doing different types of extracts and curing methods to get the kratom to where it needs to be so we can extract it. And so that's what we're doing now. And there's and Ben Balderson has been so instrumental in all of my cannabis and kratom extracts. Ben Balderson, he had a conversation with James True a couple of years ago, and this is the first time I saw Ben, and I was blown away. I was like, that dude's fucking crushing. And he was talking about the frankincense and myrrh and the anointing oil and how, what primed what receptor for what other thing that was about to go in it. So frankincense and myrrh for, the cannabinoids, the cinnamon and cassia for the opiates. And so, yeah, if you look at my ingredients to all my stuff, it's like if I have something that helps with pain relief in an opiate type sense, like kratom, I'm going to do cinnamon and I'm going to do it right, so people can get what they're supposed to be getting out of it, and not it's I deal more and more people coming off prescriptions, and it's just and they're trying to put kratom in or anything natural into the same boat as the scourge of the earth pharmaceutical shit. I know people can compare effects and blah blah blah, But it's like these drugs have done such damage to people that people will try to get on kratom because they hear from people like me that that's, you know, a route I would choose, you know, if I didn't have iboga, you know. And then these people will take it for 6 months, and then after 6 months they're like, yeah, but bro, like now I'm addicted to kratom, and now I'm like, and then I asked the person, what were you on before kratom? They're like, oh, 16 milligrams of Suboxone for 8 years every day. I'm like, okay, so you're 6 months in from recovery. Okay, so you're still in heavy withdrawal from Suboxone, but now you want to blame kratom. Now you want to act like that. And it's like, yeah, people, and it's, so then it comes down to what's more addictive, what is addictive, what's right for you, what's not. I want, you know, natural things, you know, that's just where I'm at. You know, I want natural things, and the, you know, years of abuse to your body, and then it's easy to just blame the thing you're using. I mean, at the end of the day, we can't even blame Suboxone or shit. Like, you gotta take responsibility.
Right. Totally. Which actually kind of segues into the last question I had from the chat. Borano, I'm sorry if I botched your screen name or whatever, but how long were you on how do you say Suboxone?
Suboxone, Subutex, buprenorphine,
Subutex. That's what he
Subutex.
asked.
Well,
Subutex
I was on.
before you took iboga.
Okay.
How long were you on that before you took iboga?
Well, I was on Suboxone. Subutex is the same thing as Suboxone, just without naloxone.
Okay.
Either way, it's all buprenorphine is the name of it. So I was on that with a doctor prescription, like 4 or 5 years. And then before that, I always, you know, like most junkies will know, you always have Suboxone that you bought from some other junkie, you know, in case you don't have dope one day, you know. So I had been doing it on and off for years, you know. So maybe a total of like 10 years, you know, with the last 4 years being every single day, scheduled, consistent dosing.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, that's good. I'm glad that people in the chat had questions. That's awesome. And they were good questions, and they sparked a bunch of stuff. So
that's
cool.
The most important question is how long were you on Suboxone and stuff? It really is like that. That's a great question. And also just know, if you are at a high dose being 4 milligrams or more, that's a high dose. Like people think 24 milligrams, that's a high dose. Like your brain allegedly has a ceiling for things like Suboxone. There's a ceiling effect. And some people say that ceiling effect occurs at 6 to 8 milligrams. And therefore, anything you take after that is just kind of pointless. But you're still building up that half-life, though, in your body. So you're really just tacking on more years that you got to go, you know. So in order to get to the point where you can do iboga, you have to be at a respectable dose, I'll say. So not a high dose, not busting through the ceiling doses. I'm talking like a half of 1 milligram every other day for weeks to months. Weeks typically is all, you know, someone need. And it's hard. It's really difficult to stop doing things like that, because your body literally starts falling apart and twitching and restless leg syndrome and kicking, and you're throwing up randomly, and you know, you can smell shit from a mile away, and your body's in full freak out mode. So it sucks, man. And that's why I think things like kratom are so good. And I don't see it as really swapping one bad thing for another bad thing. I see it as swapping a horrible, dirty, gross tool for like a brand new tool. Yes, it's doing something similar, but now your bushes are like, they look good. They don't look fucked up and gross. Like, you need the right tool, you know?
Yeah.
And so I've more and more been railing against buprenorphine and Suboxone and Subutex, all that shit, because that was sold to our generation as the safe way out. That's how it was marketed to everyone, is like, well, this is a non-addictive version that doesn't get you high, that you can just wean off of, and you're great and you're good. And dude, you cannot talk to people who've been weaning for, some people, years. It took me 2 years to wean off. But man, the weaning conversations, once people get down below 2 milligrams, people really a lot of the times will stall out and get stagnant. Like this shit has spiritual hooks in people, and I work with these people on a daily basis. So, and you know, all of our teeth are falling out. You know, people, dude, it just destroys you. Your serotonin is shot. Your testosterone doesn't fucking exist if you're on that shit. You know, and that's everyone who supports that shit though, you know, if they're for it by they say, you know, it helps people work though. After everything I just said, they were like, yeah, but you know, it helps people work. I'm like, okay, like, so what? Like, heroin used to help me work. Like, who gives a fuck? Like,
Right.
what are you trying to make work in your life? Your body or that 9 to 5 that you could never replace? Like, fucking A, dude. Well, some people have kids to feed and they got to put food on the table. I know. I'm one of those fucking people. Like, people say that shit to me. People say that shit to me. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, dude. Again, back to the avoidance of self responsibility. Any way to just like blame something external. Oh, it's because of my job is so hard, I have to take this drug. It's like, actually, it's probably because you are out of balance, and there's something going on in here that you're not addressing. Is why you're taking the drug. It actually isn't. It could be the job because a lot of the jobs are shitty, and if you're working a slave job, you know, yeah, that's really taxing. And, you know, some people get out of it, some people don't, whatever. But if you're needing to use any kind of substance to get through the day like that because it's so horrible for your soul, then there's something you need to question about your lifestyle and your choices. In my opinion, not blaming kratom as like something you're going to get addicted to if you know, try and get off these other drugs, you know. Yeah. Crazy, man.
Yeah.
That it does kind of bring me. I want to talk about your.
I couldn't agree more. By the way, I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I couldn't agree more. And it's like a lot of these people, they don't know what like real drug withdrawal and addiction is. So just like if you stop eating sugar, just cut out all the sugar from your life right now. Do it. You will feel just as bad, if not worse, from doing that shit than you would from no matter how much kratom you took, blah, blah, blah. And I say this to people and they'll be like, bro, I'm speaking from experience, bro. And I'm like, I've taken kratom. I know. I'm like, I'm speaking from experience too. Like, we're all speaking from experience. And I think you're a pussy. Like, that's what it comes down to. Because if you want to call it, like you just said, man, it's just so perfect. Why am I even adding to it? If you can't accept what the issue is and you're pointing at a tool and it's like everything is addictive, everything can be addictive. And I know it's not just from my own experience taking this shit. I'm working with thousands of people over the last year. I'm talking to people every single day on a daily basis. And I can't tell you, one of the biggest surprises for me, but not really. At the same time, it's just a beautiful relief, of course, is that kratom is not nearly, let me say this, people that I work with and on a daily basis, normal people, rich people, poor people, it is so case by cases. Heroin, fentanyl, none of that shit is case by cases. If it gnawed at you, like 1 or 2 people try it and they're like, oh, that's not for me. But most people that try that shit, done. It's a done deal. Okay, so I would say about 80% of the people who try kratom leaf don't keep taking it. And no matter how much they took, whatever. I've known people that took it every day for months on end for a pain problem. They were healthy people. They started to heal. They literally just stopped taking it. And I've said that to certain people who rail against kratom. And they're like, really? Because everyone I talk to is just telling me that they're so dope sick, they want to get back on Suboxone. And that's what I've heard people saying. I've heard people suggesting that people get off kratom by getting on Suboxone. That's where we're at.
Wow.
So we are such in a fucking upside down. Wow, right? I thought that was like crazy. There's like not mainstream. There's large groups of people like supporting that and like, yeah, that's just like a support group and they're acting all like, like that's a good solution. And it's like, do these people just not know? But how do they not know? Like, it's just so, to me, that's just so clear cut the wrong way. What do you think, Michelle? Tell me, because this is a new territory for me. I'm like, you people are acting fucking retarded.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is just that, again, I sound like a broken record with it, but the avoidance of self. It's just like that blame of something else, so the excuse so they don't have to change. Because, dude, anything, like you said, cut out sugar. You know how hard that is? Because sugar's in everything in these hidden pockets that you wouldn't know. But when you do, you feel amazing, you know? But
After you get that over that hump of depression and suicide,
yes.
yeah.
Totally. It's like with anything, for me, a big thing was like losing weight. So
Mm,
like when I was like 21, I just like gradually gained weight. Like throughout high school, I got to college, did the typical thing where you gain a bunch of freaking weight your freshman year. And I had this huge epiphany where I like one morning I woke up and I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like I'm
mm,
like paying money to be here. I'm like not going to class and I'm partying with my friends. Like what? And I just totally like flipped. And I just fucking was like, all right, I'm going to cut all this stuff out of my life. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to exercise. And it was like that initial getting over that hump of doing it, getting over the ridicule of friends who make fun of you for like not coming out anymore or like, oh, what? You're not going to go and eat McDonald's with us at 2 a.m. anymore or whatever. The amount of crap I got from friends of mine that
yeah.
I was like doing something good for myself is really just because they're upset that they don't maybe have the willpower to do something they want to do. And it
Mm,
might not even be weight loss. It might literally be just not being a shithead or whatever. And I think that you're going to have these groups of people then that get around and they're going to validate each other and say like, yeah, man, kratom is bad and this is why and blah, blah, blah. And now I'm needing to get back on this drug. And it's like, well, now you have a bunch of cheerleaders that are just avoiding self together.
together.
So nothing productive is going to happen. And so I think there's fear of leaving the group, fear of doing something different, fear of somebody not liking you anymore because you're going to make a change. So it's classic just avoidance, I think, really,
Yeah.
because what it makes me think of too, and this is like a whole other topic, but what is it? It's called like the body positive movement or whatever.
Right.
So it's just like that kind of stuff. And I'm not here to judge anybody who's like overweight or whatever. I get it. Everybody's different. Everybody has stuff going on. But if you're literally overweight to the point where it's like going to be an issue for you, like you have health problems because of it, like you can't do certain things,
Right.
but then you get on this train of like, no, fat is beautiful. It's like, well, I'm not saying it's not beautiful, but if it's like causing you issues and you can't do things that you should normally be able to do, like walk a flight of stairs, instead of just like telling yourself that I don't have to change, you need to like really, really start evaluating what your priorities are in life. And I think a lot of it comes down to lack of self-respect. And that was one of the things that I realized about myself with certain things is like, wow, I can look back at times in my life and be like, wow, I made some really bad choices. And then when it boils down to, it's like, man, I didn't have like enough self-respect for myself. I wasn't respecting myself. I wasn't doing the things to like stand in integrity. And there's so much stuff that comes along with change that most people just avoid it. So that's what I think about all that. Kind of
Yeah.
a roundabout answer, but yeah, I think
That's
at the end of the day, it's like what Mario and I usually come to the conclusion of with a lot of things that we're like observing in the world or people we interact with or whatever. It's just like, wow, dude, there's just this lack of wanting to take personal responsibility.
That's like the whole thing, like that's like the whole your part in it, not so many people I think like are in the accusatory reaction stage of like fixing everything or so it's me, I'm the problem. And it's like, that's not the problem, man, but it's your choices are. You're not the problem, but your choices definitely are. So, and if you're making choices based on the fact that you don't respect yourself, yeah, it's just a recipe for disaster. Did you have people telling you things like this growing up?
Like in
Healthy
terms of
self-esteem, health in general?
I had more of like, you're getting fat. You're
Okay.
getting fat. You're
Oh,
looking
okay.
kind of fat,
That don't help. Yeah, like
No, and then I just, I had a lot of friends around me too that like, the typical kind of like I had girlfriends that would go and eat all this shit food and they're never gaining weight. And I would
right,
just I'm just hanging out with the group, so I'm doing that and I'm gaining weight and all this stuff. And so I just had really poor like self-confidence, I would
mm,
say. And just I really had to take it into my own account to like take control of all that stuff, and even to this day, it's just one of those things I struggle with, but I feel like I know it's part of what my work here, is to
right.
keep that shit in control and to understand and to like just know what's going on. And then once I started actually really seeing changes in my body, I feel like that's when people kind of came around. But I just had a lot of friends that were like, "You're too skinny now. You don't even feel like your old self." I'm like, "Oh, trust me, I'm still here, man. Like I just shed a bunch of crap that was not doing me any good, actually." And it's just really strange. I just remember feeling like, "Wow, I can't believe that I'm actually getting like crap about this," and they're like trying to make me feel bad. And like I said, when I look at it now, it's just like, and not even that it was jealousy. I think it was just like, then they would have to look at themselves and the things that they might want to change about themselves. And that's too hard for so many people. Um,
Well, where
and
do you
so,
start?
right.
Like, that's probably what most people, it's
Yeah,
just like
totally. That is what most people say. And I say anywhere.
anywhere.
Start anywhere.
Oh,
You
shit.
hear the classic, you got a hoarder, man. Oh, my house is full of stuff. I've collected it for 20 years. How do I even begin to clean it? I'm like, I don't know, get a trash bag and just start putting it in there.
Yeah,
Like
don't.
you
Just
have
burn
to
it
start
down, dude.
somewhere, right? It's
I'm
just
a big fan of that shit. Burn it down, just build a fucking another one. Yeah, dude, I'm
yeah,
a big
rebuild it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep, yep. When
And I
things
get
are
it.
too far gone, don't invest more time in trying to salvage what's you're never getting back.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. And it's just like that whole thing of like, where do I start? It's kind of like, I almost kind of look at it like in another excuse, because it's like,
Yes,
well, you can start anywhere. Trust me. So,
literally anywhere. Literally, like where you do choose to start is where you were supposed to, because
yep.
it's your choice. It's your and that's another lesson. Like it's up to you. I so often like I'll pray, but I'm like, I just know that like I don't finish my prayers until they're, I'm full in. I don't do going through the motion prayers. I don't do that. Like it's what's the point? That's like blasphemy. But I forgot what I was going with that. Yeah.
It's okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. One thing I wanted to talk about because I had a dream and it was about basically I had asked a teacher, and it's a teacher of mine and Mario's, I would say, that Mario actually introduced me to years ago. His name is Brother Panic, actually, if anybody cares. His name is Brother Panic. And in the dream, I asked Brother Panic a question and I wrote it down for him. He had this notebook, right? He had a notebook where you could leave him comments or something like that. And I don't even remember what the question was, but the answer was root medicine.
Mm,
And so when I woke up, the first thing I thought of was iboga. Is it iboga? Iboga? It doesn't even matter. Iboga?
I say iboga. Iboga.
Iboga.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can
So
say however you want.
yeah, that's true. So I thought of iboga because I had been thinking about our interview, I was researching it and all this stuff. I was like, oh yeah, it's root medicine, man. They use the
Mhm.
bark of the root, right?
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about root medicine in general and how I always look at root medicine as like it is a penetrator. It like usually drives into really deep spots, whether it's congestion in the lungs, whether it's an emotional hangup, whether it's, whatever it is, the root helps you get to the
The
root
root.
cause.
Right,
Right.
right, right, right.
So I had this whole weave and I wanted to bring it up to you because of the connection with using the root for this medicine. And so basically, like, do you find it fitting that iboga is a root medicine and that it is used in the capacity that we've been talking about, over this whole period of time?
It is so fitting. It's just like, yeah, like you said, getting down to the root cause of the problem. Like, yes, that's man, that's totally what it is. And 100%. If you have done iboga, you know exactly what Michelle just described is what it is. Right when you take it, you're or once it starts going, there ain't nothing as powerful, in my opinion. I've never that's something that's just an entirely different for the rest of your life. You will now walk by and look at trees in a very different way, and man, and there's so many cool metaphors in my time travel and stuff that I'm still picking apart from 4 years ago. One of them was like one of the jumps. I was with these people and we were looking for, it was like the tallest tree, and it there was like this legend was told to us, as we were trying to find it, and it was like this tree, is known by religious people as the roots go all the way down to hell, and the tops of the trees go all the way up to the heavens. And I was just like, okay, and so we like cool. And then so then we went and found, like, I'm not typically like a lofty, like, I don't know, I didn't come up with any of this stuff. So we found the tree, and I remember we were like, you'd start to carve in a tree, and this like real dark like ooze, like this black goo would come out of it, right? And I would like, man, and it's just crazy, like you said, the metaphor. But anyways, it had in the dream itself, it had like a potent opiate psychedelic effect, that like ooze or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was weird.
It's almost like the blood. Like it has there's like, I mean, resin, obviously. I think like resin could even be associated with the blood of a tree or something. So when you said that, I thought of like the blood of
like
the tree or something.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just and that's what we were, cutting out of this tree and whatnot. So that's one of my things. I forgot why I brought this up. I get so nervous during a stream, so I lose my train of thought all the time.
Oh, no, you're doing good. It's totally fine. I think we were kind of just talking about like the way that this stuff, the root medicine or whatever it is just is so penetrating. And you can add, what I've found is you can add certain roots to certain formulas to drive things in further. So like, for example, I work a lot with cannabis root, and I find that when you add cannabis root to any cannabis extraction, whether it be a salve or whatever, it drives everything that you put into the salve further into the tissue, into the spirit, into the soul. And I think that all roots do that. So whether you're working with cannabis or not, I wanted to get your opinion on that, because I found it very interesting that iboga is, typically it is coming from the root. And so when I learned that, I'm like, dude, yes, that makes so much sense. And another thing about it, I had a question for what I find is that when there's plants that kind of either they, encourage a psychedelic experience, or they maybe help us to travel into different realms, say something like mugwort, where it can like kind of be almost like an opening for you. Do you find that those types of herbs also, or plants also, come with like an inherent protective nature to them? Or do you think that it's like you want to add something to that plant in order to bring protection or whatever? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes tons of sense. I would say, again, case by case basis. Like, let me think. If it's like mushrooms and things like that, like people will talk about the psilocybin on alone may poke holes in your aura if you're going a little too far with it without the right intentions. And that's literally everything, is those intentions. So and then you listen to people like Amanda Vollmer talk about things like microdose mushrooms. So how to she handled that issue when it comes to microdose mushrooms. So she'll talk about the health benefits of reishi, chaga, and other mushrooms in the fungi family fungi. but they have healing modalities, and a part of that healing modalities is the spiritual nature they each have. So like reishi can can be quite sedating, and taking in a higher dose. So they will affect your mental state in different ways. So like she's using I think chaga and reishi and lion's mane, to, like you said, kind of like psilocybin's friends that are like kind of standing around him, while they're letting psilocybin do its thing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that because I think that intention is everything with everything. But I'm always when anytime I'm talking to anybody about like the astral realms, the tripping realms, the whatever you want to call it, one of the first things that always comes to my mind is protection and what that looks like. And because I think mugwort always is so near and dear to me, but it's like it's an herb that can take you to those spaces, but it protects you there too. And so there's like this protective, like crone energy coming along with the mugwort. So she's like almost watching over you while you're having these like experiences in the dream realm or even in meditation and stuff. And so I just think it's so beautiful how like plants come in and can be partners with each other or can have that all in just one plant.
Yes. Oh, if it's all in one, and that's what iboga, the root of iboga is. I mean, that is everything, in my opinion, to my life. That is everything. Like, I don't have to ever travel. I don't have to go on vacation. I don't have to go anywhere now because I've fucking time traveled, dude. So it's like, yeah. And while you're doing that, like you said, people astral project and they do things like that you need protection as well. But iboga, it's an all-in-one package for sure. And you can feel that too. You feel that when, like, people hear about reviewing your childhood memories and learning about your trauma. People are like, oh, fuck that. This is what caused all that. I don't want to get caught up in those feelings. And that's what's so cool about iboga is it's strictly instructional. You don't get to have feelings about it. You get to be told, this is what happened. These are the people involved. This is what was said to this person. This is how that person felt. And then all the domino effect of their choice making after that, from that moment. And you don't get to sit and be grievous or be upset about it. You don't get to. It doesn't let you. So
that's cool. Yeah. That's awesome. That is totally what I was very curious about with it. So thank you.
But it's intense. Like,
I believe it.
Najla reminds me that too. She's like, you gotta emphasize. This is a good way to put it. It's like a marathon. It's very exhaustive. That's what I'll say. It's a very exhausting thing. So like you said, some people have more energy when they come out of it, but some people when they come out of it are extremely drained. And they can be for several days after that. So I do want to emphasize that it's not, this is the boot camp of psychedelics. This is the shit right here. But if you're not a strong character, don't play in a strong game. That's what I'll say.
That's beautiful. Yeah, it's a good reminder. I know, because sometimes we can say these things and then people just willy-nilly. Every once in a while, you got that one person that's like, okay, and they said this and whatever. And like, yeah, they're not ready. And sometimes that happens. A friend of mine was talking about that with ayahuasca, of just like, she didn't think when she had her experience, she kind of in hindsight was like, I don't know if I was actually ready for that. And she did it. But, it put her in a place where, and I've heard many stories like that, with ayahuasca specifically. I have not done it, but I've heard things like that. And then sometimes I'll be like, well, but if it happened, were you ready? Because it happened. Right. So was God like, no, you're ready. You might not feel like you're ready in the moment, but you're ready because you saw it. So, but I totally get also though, you just have to really check in with yourself before you do really anything. Literally before you eat something, you should check in. You know what I mean? Do
Yeah.
you really need this? Do you really want it? For all across the board.
Yeah, if
So
you don't have a clear reason right off the bat, I need to eat. Like if you don't have that and you're like, the answer is no.
exactly right.
Like,
Well, so we are winding down. Before we say goodbye, I do want to just emphasize the fact that you offer addict consultations, and I just wanted
dude,
you to briefly talk to people about that, what that would look like if somebody's interested. How can they do that? I've linked that in the show note for people, but just a quick like synopsis of what that looks like for somebody.
sure. So addict consultation is just a product on our website. You donate to us, and that is a commitment donation. So many people are literally just trying to pass a drug test next Friday. So I'm working with serious people, not to say those people aren't serious, but if you're taking your recovery seriously, know that you've put most likely months to years into this. You put months to years already into this issue. So it's not going to be fixed by next Friday. Just a fact. Doesn't matter if you go to Africa tomorrow. It's just not. Like there's repercussions of things you've done for the past decade or whatever. You got a lot to correct in your practical life. Like I came out of iboga like, Najla, quit your job. Like just telling, you gotta start doing that. And it's step by step, case by case. Be patient. You've put so much time into this bullshit, but now you're like, fuck it. It's not quick enough. Man. And then you're gonna, 10 years gonna go by and you're gonna still be taking that shit. So anyways, have a plan, wean down, and get as far as you possibly can while still being able to maintain your life. If you can go so far where you just stop taking the shit and you never contact me, dude, that's cool too. But yeah, start weaning down. That's the main thing people need to know, because that's how you're going to get off. You have to put the commitment in. You have to put the effort in. It can't be like, tomorrow. I'll take less tomorrow. Like, don't do that. So, and if you do that, it's okay. Like I've done that. For years. So just know that I'm not going to be mad at someone if they do or don't do something that I'm suggesting, but if you are telling you about, so don't assume that either. I'm working with so many different people. I won't remember exactly, your time, date, and when you were going to do whatever you're going to do. So just treat it, be a professional and just clearly state what you want. I don't always have time to talk to people for long periods of time and consultations. It does turn into that sometimes, which my best research comes from our own work. So it's good. It's really good. But I also don't want to get people's hopes up or down. I'm just trying to give the information. So, so just know what you want, clearly state it. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're black. I don't care about if you're straight or you're gay or and these are the things that led me to do. I don't need to really know much of that. I don't really need to know any of that shit. It's not going to sway me if you're this. It's not going to sway me if you're that. What's going to sway me, and the only thing that's going to sway me, is what you're telling me that you want. And I'll tell you right then whether I think we should continue the conversation. So just be serious about this. It's not, we're not fucking around. So just take your life seriously. I'm doing this because I know it's my purpose to talk about things like this, or I wouldn't have been shown what I was shown. So again, I'm just putting the information out there. Pray on it, pray for wisdom, and know everything is case by case. If someone tells you AA worked for them. Well, rehab worked for them. It don't matter. Like, you're you. If you need to do both of those, that's cool. If you need to do iboga, that's cool. Whatever you got to do, we're all going to the same place of freedom. We're all, but then people hear me say like that. Exactly. So take Suboxone. We're on our way. Like, don't do that. Stay natural over chemical. Natural over chemical. Like, keep it natural. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. When you start comparing, but it's really the dosing schedule. So because I have to take kratom, 2 to 3 times a day, instead of just taking Suboxone once, that's what's keeping me an addict, is the dosing regimen, because that's reminding me I need more drugs. Like, dude, it's fucking retarded. Like, you drink water more than once a day too. If you need to take anything, if anyone needs to take anything for a certain period of time, for a certain reason, if your intentions are right and true and beautiful, and you're here to do good work, and you have self-control and self-discipline, or at least you're gaining that, indulge in nature in the way that you should. In the way that you should. I could just keep rambling about this shit. I'm sorry, Michelle.
No, do not apologize. That was beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. And I wanted people to hear that, like, because even when we talked in Vibrant, you talked about that of like, only serious people like come and apply, basically, because
I'm busy.
yeah, exactly. And that even brings me just to this part of the interview of like, I just want you to know I appreciate you so much and your time. And this was so much fun. And I feel like I want to talk to you like so many more times. And I have so many other questions. And I know that I just can tell that we could go off on so many tangents. And I just really appreciate you and you coming on and just sharing your story and what you're doing. And I just want you to know that I'm like totally rooting for you guys. And it's awesome to see what you're up to. And yeah, I just want to keep in touch and keep things flowing, but let everybody know where they can find you, what you have like on the docket, what you're excited about. And yeah, just thank you again.
Thank you so much. Oh my God, that's like the nicest thing ever. Thank you. Kindest, not nice. It's very kind. Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
So honored that you have me on, and man, thank you so much. And I love what you're doing, and I love your vibe, and I think we got a very like-minded situation going on. You and your man sounds like me and my woman, so it's good. It's good. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to find more people like us, right, Michelle?
Yeah, because it's hard. It's freaking hard. And when you find them, you got to hold them, man, and love them. And
don't let them go. Handcuff them to a radiator in the basement, whatever you got to do.
Yes. And just constantly remind them how grateful you are for them, because yeah, as long as this journey's been going so far, when the good gems come, you just got to know, and you have to be able to hold on and polish. Yes.
Yep. Yeah. And don't, scarcity mindset. Don't worry that you might have another opportunity later. Blah, blah. Take the opportunity that's put in front of you. Take it. Have faith. Run with it.
Yes, totally, man.
Cool.
Well, cool. I linked your website and your Instagram are all down in the show notes. Yes.
GroundedExtracts.com.
There you go.
GroundedExtracts.com. Yep.
All righty. Well, cool. Thank you so much again. And yeah, I know we'll be chatting soon at some other point. So keep it strong, man. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.